Everyone, it's Christine here. Welcome back to my channel and to this full moon in Scorpio happening on April 23rd, today, by the time you are seeing this. My apologies, my intro was lost. I've experienced major tech issues over the weekend leading up to this video. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for understanding. This upcoming full moon is really going to help clean us out. It's asking us to really look into places that we haven't looked before, haven't wanted to look, and anything that's coming up in our emotional body to be accepted, to be acknowledged, to be released so that we can continue moving forward. Let's get into the main themes of this full moon in Scorpio. The first theme is breaking away from fears, self-doubts, insecurities, and past constraints. This lunation forms a T-square in fixed solid signs, with the sun in Taurus, the moon in Scorpio, and each forming a square to Pluto in Aquarius at 2 degrees. So I kept getting an image of a wheel here, and we're all being pushed to essentially clean out, let go, release from the past, especially things that don't support where we want to develop or move forward, where we can optimize and continue growing, because when we have reached a certain level of growth, that means we're ready for the next phase in our life. And here, think of it as a wheel or something pushing you forward. Because we have all this solid and fixed energy, I feel like it's going to happen slowly. There may be resistance. There may be points of feeling like you're stepping back, like 2 steps back, 1 step forward. And I feel like it's all happening so that you can gain that sense of security for yourself that allows you to acclimate and get used to how you are changing, how you are shifting. If you hear any slurping, you all, those are my dogs. I do my best to take them out with editing, but sometimes they pop in. The moon is in her fall here in Scorpio. And Scorpio, this energy ruled by Mars traditionally, it's about destruction here. So I feel like we are destroying maybe a form of immolation, and I say this energetically, where we are destroying things that used to provoke fear in us, our relationship with fear and the unknown, things that we are leaving behind, and also things that we have not wanted to look at or even reconcile. And we are opening that up to take a look at, what do I still need to deal with? What is it that I need to heal? And what is it that I'm ready to simply let go of, that I don't want to continue holding on? Because with this scorpionic energy, there could be, and there could have been a tendency for you to hold on to certain things way past their expiration date, to hold on to feelings of resentment, of guilt, of anger, of sadness, whatever it is, fill in the blank. But there's an energy here of it's time to let that go. But that also means when we let something go, which we have maybe associated with or formed some type of relationship, in other words, we felt comfortable, when we leave that, there has to be something that fills that next space, right? Otherwise there is a vacuum, and that liminality creates a temporary waiting room energy. That's what I like to call it and what I see, because we're essentially waiting for this new way of being, this new way of relating to fears, perhaps even going through the process of healing to result in something different. And with Pluto and Aquarius, there's that energy. I keep saying a wheel because Pluto moves very slowly, and this is a transit that's going to occur over the next 20 or so years. We're moving slowly towards differentiating and protecting who we are, but connecting to things that are deeper socially, that resonate with us, that are in congruence with our values or have congruency with our values. And I also feel this means finally taking out from the closet, the attic, the basement, or even under your bed, all the shit that you have not wanted to look at. It could literally be physical items, physical possessions. But more than likely, this is going to be things energetically, things like memories or traumas or wounds or anything else that has kept you pinned back to the past, that has not allowed you to evolve or progress forward, and that has kept you stuck in a certain identity. Maybe thinking, I'm not good enough to do this type of job or career. I am not good at public speaking, so this is never going to be my path, or whatever it is. There's something here that we are shedding, because with the destruction of, with the scorpionic energy, I should say, with the destruction of our old selves and our fears, it means that we are going to be going towards a new, upgraded version of ourselves. So there's a lot coming up, and I kept seeing bubbles as well. You may have realized, perhaps throughout and during the eclipse season, that a lot of memories, a lot of things from the past, a lot of situations have come up or have returned, simply so you could become aware of them, simply so you could say, what am I going to do with them? And because it's prompting you to ask yourself, do you want to still stay in this environment, in these conditions, in this energy? Because when we still continue to identify with a certain part of ourselves, a certain part of our stories over and over and over, it keeps us stuck in that same spot. And a lot of times it could have to do with themes around power, security, and safety, especially emotional safety. And it's absolutely, to me, wondrous, perhaps, when you open that closet door, like I mentioned, and you peer into that darkness, whether it's within yourself or something you've seen in others, or things that you have amassed or experienced in your life. When you start going little by little through it, almost like rummaging, and asking yourself, what does this mean for me? What's coming up? And simply allow yourself to feel and to honor what you're feeling. It feels incredibly cleansing, very therapeutic. So I anticipate too, with a lot of this breaking away from the fears, from the past, from doubts, and any insecurities, and anything that's constraining you from moving forward, I suspect that there are going to be a lot of deep rooted tears, a lot of emotions coming up, guttural. I kept hearing like screams, guttural sounds. You know, when you haven't been able to express something, and finally you just, it's like your body does it on its own, and you just feel this volcanic eruption of emotions, whether it's screaming or anger, or screaming turning into tears, sadness. There's a lot happening here, and it could simply be a recognition of yourself, of finally saying, I'm going to let this go. There have been a lot of themes coming up around higher purpose, meaning, existential or existentialism, but looking at the deeper ways in which we are living and what we don't want to experience again. And I feel like this lunation, particularly with some of the energies we've experienced in the previous weeks with the eclipses, they're really asking a lot of us, do you want to continue living in perhaps the way you have, whether it's banal, whether it's superficial, whether it's simply no longer meaningful for you? Because that could be defined very differently for everyone. And facing our fears head on and not allowing anything or anyone to take our power back is where the Scorpio, or the Scorpion, I should say, reclaims their power and their light, and where they're able to bounce back from that darkness upwards. I feel like there is a major destruction of who we used to be, and versions of ourselves that kept us small, that kept us dim, that kept us in the shadows for so many reasons. It's comfortable, it keeps you safe, no one can provoke you, attack you, criticize you, reject you, abandon you, etc. So all in all, this lunation is going to bring up a lot, and I feel like a practical way to deal with this is to find someone that you trust. And if there's not a human version, maybe an animal or a critter, and even expressing it in some way, writing, speaking, dancing, or another creative outlet, because this is going to allow you to channel this out. And it's important with this lunation because it's in a feminine, watery, very sensitive point, but also energy, a state. It's important to get this out, to not keep this within us, because I feel like this is going to perpetuate that imprisonment, that feeling of feeling stuck, of feeling like, why aren't things changing, especially in the emotional realm, and feeling like we may feel disconnected with our body and with our emotions, feelings, intuition. This also goes with the element of allowing ourselves to shine. And I kept seeing a rock. When I was little, I used to like going to the beach and lifting up rocks, and you could find a lot of animals and life under there, even in the forest too. I was fascinated, and I kept seeing that come up, where some of us have been keeping ourselves hidden under a rock in the darkness. And again, this is all metaphorical. Some of you may literally have been hiding out in your nests, in your homes, or keeping yourself small in various ways by not putting yourself out there, not trying new things, not allowing yourself to be seen in the way that you want. And this lunation, because this contends simultaneously with the fears and traumas and wounds and many issues that are simultaneously unfolding, but also that we're dealing with at this time while we are being asked to shine. So it's almost as if we're letting go and moving forward. And because this T-square is in a solid fixed energy, I feel like it's going to happen slowly. There could be a lot of resistance for folks where they're like, I don't want to change. I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. And there could be fear coming up. But I want to ask and bring up this question to you all about, well, what happens if you don't change, particularly in the Scorpio area of your life? But think about also too, anything that's coming up, regardless of astrology, just energetically things that you really want to change in your life. What would happen if you stayed stuck? What happens if you spend the next year, 5 years, 10 years in that same position? Because a lot of the fears that I've realized that we've had, they feel very real. I'm not going to say they're imagined, but many things that we have created in our head don't happen. So I think it's important too to recognize where we ourselves have limited our progression, our ability to say that's not true, I can do this, or where we have kept ourselves stuck, because shadow elements also come up with the Scorpio energy of looking deep within ourselves in places we don't want to look at, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's me. I'm self-sabotaging, or I'm doing this to myself, and to ask ourselves why. And this goes with allowing ourselves to be seen, allowing ourselves to shine, to have success, to feel wealthy, to have money, whatever it is. Those are the similar corollaries, right? We all are releasing some type of fear, some type of trauma or healing. And this is going to allow us to shine and amplify a certain part of ourselves in ways we haven't before. So that means getting rid of anything that's holding us back. And this is the hard part for the Scorpionic energy. It's because we want to control how things are going to result. We may want to control certain relationship dynamics, control ourselves and how we present ourselves and what we bring to the table, to others, and to situations, and also hold on to things beyond their expiration date and not realizing when it's time to let that go. I also want to say too, Pluto and Aquarius, it's also initiating this truth light within us, and it's asking us to finally see the truth of our life, our situations, where we are right now and where we want to go. Because the Plutonian energy is initiating a form of alteration, a form of massive change that is happening at a smaller incremental level. And I feel like it's allowing us to start realizing where we want to go in the form of our life trajectory and what we don't want to revisit. The second theme has to do about expressing yourself at higher levels of consciousness. We have Mercury at 16 degrees of Aries conjunct the North Node at 14 degrees of Aries. Both are opposing the South Node at 14 degrees of Libra. So we've got new ways that we are stepping into when it comes to communication, language, expression, wisdom, intelligence, the dissemination of these themes, and also friendships, because Mercury does rule over friendships, particularly platonic friendships, travel, the way we move about, business, commerce, and finances in our relationship to this, I should say, and also themes around the occult, esotericism, divination, astrology. These are changing, and I feel like I've seen actually an upburst, an increase of a lot of people tapping into many of these themes that I've mentioned, especially the occult, astrology, and using these modalities as ways to enhance their life, to create some type of understanding at a deeper level of who they are, psychologically, emotionally, but also on a soul or spiritual level. And using many of these forms but also changing the way that they interact with people and the way they express what it is that they're learning, how it is that they're evolving and changing. And that means we are going to start shifting who it is that we interact with on a basic level. Many people I've found in this lunation, I'm not going to say it's a now or never lunation, but I feel like with what's come up in the last several weeks, there has been parameters perhaps set, or some type of maybe standard. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but there's been a lot of issues that have come up, and they're really asking us where we want to go, how we want to move forward, or if we want to stay where we are. Because with this scorpionic energy, it's a fixed or solid sign, so there could be a tendency to hold on. So some people will be repeating cycles because they don't want to change for fear, and they don't want to deal with that, which is okay. It's part of their journey. And others are going to do it slowly. And with this energy here, this means that the way that you are receiving information, the way that you're disseminating information and sharing this and inculcating and perhaps linking with others to teach, because when you talk and communicate with others, in other words, connection, you transmit and share a lot of this. And sometimes we don't even consciously realize that until after the fact, or something someone said, or they gave us something, or they shared something with us. It was precisely what we needed to know or hear that was going to help us. And in Aries, Mercury in Aries, I feel like this is going to be quite new, fresh, perhaps youthful ways of communicating that we may not have ever done before. So it may also lend to being more assertive, putting down our boundaries, saying no a lot, and protecting our way of fomenting who we are, or potentially fomenting the identity that we want to step into, and also learning to communicate in ways that support this identity and to support the containers that we have with others, the relationships that we have with others, that provide or tap into the values that we most hold, close to our heart, that's important for us. I also feel like with these higher levels of expression, with this full moon, people are letting go of old ways of simply communicating, or lack thereof. I feel like many folks with the South Node in Libra, I feel like many people are leaving behind ways of communicating that didn't help them. So being passive aggressive, being quiet, being too diplomatic, or like a mediator in times when you needed to speak out and to express your needs and desires. I feel like people are leaving behind that energy of trying to almost project what someone is going to say so that you can make sure that nothing rocks the boat. Trying to feel like you need to know what someone is going to do or react. Because with this Aries energy in the North Node as well, we're being asked to say no to that. You're not responsible for that. You do you, and the rest will follow. If other people don't appreciate that, don't respect that, more than likely they're going to either go away, or it's going to shift that relationship. So it's all about dictating your life, the rules for your life, and also your life in general. The third theme revolves around making new friends and relationships. So Venus is at 23 degrees of Aries, separating from a conjunction with Chiron at 20 degrees of Aries. And we also have Mercury at 16 degrees of Aries, applying towards a conjunction with Chiron at 20 degrees of Aries. So Mercury and Venus both signify friendships, relationships. And Venus can also signify themes around beauty, around love or romance, pleasure, sensuality, our values, womanhood, sisterhood, feminine energy. And Mercury, I've already mentioned those themes, but there's an underlying theme here on how we connect and express and relate and communicate with all types of relationships. And there's a lot of healing coming up, major healing. So if you've been feeling triggered, like fireworks, it could have been going off. Because some of the interactions I've had with folks and clients, people are getting triggered again, usually by those closest to them. So they could be your family, those in your intimate circle, friends, a partner, people that you work with. And this is all happening right now because something this energy asks us is, do you still want to engage in any types of relationships, situations, behaviors, events that try to take your power away, or that try to subsume you into feeling like this is on you, that you're guilty, or whatever it is? Because I feel like with Chiron here, this is about asking yourself, well, what can I do to make sure I don't feel this way? What is it that's coming up for me? What are some of the general themes? Is it feeling unloved? Is it feeling like I'm not accepted for who I am? So I wanted to add that as well. And it requires so much more, and I'm trying to keep this short. But when we start changing, when we start healing and recognizing, wow, this is something that's been being dinged to me, or something that I've been experiencing and I don't want to, and we start looking at it in new ways, particularly if previous ways we have tried to deal with or have dealt with these situations haven't worked, we're also being asked to look at it from a new perspective with the Aries energy. And even with the Scorpio energy, it's about diving deeper than what we've done and have gone before. So it's like lifting up again, opening that closet, lifting up the rock and looking deeper. And that could mean working alongside someone that can help support you and help you progress, or it can simply mean going deeper within yourself and asking, what am I really afraid of, and what is keeping me stuck, or what's keeping me here or immobile? I also want to say, have you noticed the amount of people that have left your life recently? I feel like there's been a lot of revolving door energy where folks may have it may have felt like they've washed away, or the way that you've operated in certain relationships have changed, or certain relationships have distinctly changed, where you just feel the dynamics are no longer the same. You may be seeing certain people less, strengthening other bonds more, or simply not giving a shit about some people where they're just going away. So overall, there's a general healing happening, healing patterns, whether they're ancestral patterns or patterns you've repeated, wounds and traumas that are wanting to come out so that they can be healed and released, especially in relationships that have existed for a while. I kept seeing longevity here, something about longevity. So there have been several situations, relationships, or patterns that you may have perpetuated or been a part of for quite a long time, and that may have been what has kept you going, what has kept you in that particular dynamic or cycle. And that's something to take a look at here. The final thing that has come up, or that came up, is break away from the pack and follow your unique guidance. We have Mars at 24 degrees of Pisces sextiling both Uranus and Jupiter at 21 and 22 degrees each respectively in Taurus. So we have support from Mars here, which is a feminine, yin, watery, very intuitive sign, also very emotional. And I feel like Mars is going to be here until the end of April. So we're purposely being asked to re-examine and get in touch with our energies in different ways, with our vitality, with the way that we relate to our emotional expression, particularly when it comes to anger and frustration and conflict. And I feel like this is happening because we're learning to trust what we feel in our body and messages, intuitive and psychic messages that are coming up, and to dive deeper into our emotional realm, which is something that may be or may feel very foreign for folks with this lunation, especially if you're feeling all of a sudden that type of emotional pressure coming up, or you're feeling particularly emotional, or like grief or trauma is coming up. So you may be feeling a lot of fear or anxiety. And a lot of this energy with Mars and Pisces, it's also helping us to recoup our own energies. Almost like those, the hair dryers, sometimes when you press them, they recoil back, so the cord goes back by itself. I feel like Mars and Pisces is also helping us in this lunation understand what it means to set boundaries, especially emotional boundaries, energetic boundaries, what that looks like for us, and also how to recoup that lost energy, perhaps because it was siphoned by others, whether they were toxic, negative people, or simply situations that we're dramatic or conflictual in some way. It's allowing us to reacquaint ourselves with our own energies, what it feels like, with our boundaries. And when we feel that anger or frustration, it's speaking to us. So many people think it's bad, but I don't feel it's bad. It's telling us, where have I violated my own boundary? Or where have I allowed someone else to do that? Where do I feel like something is off or imbalanced or not serving me anymore? Because all of these emotions are speaking to us. They're like puzzle pieces. So I feel like this lunation is also helping many people finally say, excuse me, it's time. It's time to drop maybe into my body. It's time to feel what I'm feeling. It's time not to escape or bypass that through food, drugs, alcohol, gambling, any other addiction, or any type of procrastination or escapism where you are avoiding the way that you're feeling. So in short, this lunation is really guiding us too, because when we are trying to move towards the future and continuing to make progress on our path, it's really difficult to do that when we still have shit to deal with, when we have laundry, dirty laundry, but also when we have anything that we're not completely releasing. And this can happen in many ways. I've seen this happen with people in relationships. Say you want to start a new relationship, a healthy relationship. Easiest example here that's coming to me. But you are still connecting to an ex or still dealing with other crap. And it's very hard to really embrace and allow that space to engage in this next chapter of what it is that you want when you're still dealing with the past in that way. So that's just something to consider here, because that means there's going to be closures and endings in different ways, not necessarily saying goodbye to relationships. Some people are saying goodbye to old versions of themselves, to things that they allow themselves to keep them back. I'm saying this completely wrong, and I've been having trouble speaking since the Uranus Jupiter conjunction. So I feel like people are also saying goodbye to anything that has kept them stuck or limited, whether it's themselves or others. Same thing in relationships. Because as we've healed wounds, especially with Chiron in the North Node, and we've healed anything relating to the self, to who we are, to ways that we have given up pieces of ourselves to others for whatever reason, it helps empower us here. And it allows us to finally say, no, enough is enough. I am here to reclaim who I am. I'm going to continue progressing forward and to continue getting to know myself in this perhaps a new state, new version, new persona. And that may mean leaving behind people, places, things, and certain ways of living. I also kept channeling a bunch of energy around spring cleaning, but it has nothing to do with the actual spring cleaning process. But perhaps this example will help. I kept seeing a party. Just think of a party. You throw a big party and then people leave. And the aftermath of a party is not usually the most fun because there could be dishes, dirty food, garbage, etc. There's a bit of a disarray here. Now think about when you clean something up, especially after a party or an event. You just feel good. Maybe tired, but you feel good. The space feels open and vibrant again. It feels fresh, especially when you get all the garbage out. And this is the energy that I've been feeling here. Major cleaning happening, major purging, I call it liquidation, in all areas of life. And this lunation is going to help emotionally. So there's going to be that feeling. It reminds me a little bit, the Mars sextile Jupiter alignment, a little bit like feng shui. And I know there's many schools of thought, so I'm saying this generally. When you move around things in your house, when you get stuff out that is no longer relevant to you, maybe that needs to go to the trash, that once held positive memories, but you're like, nope, it doesn't fit who I am anymore, and you get it out, it starts shifting things around. When you create space in your life, you create space for opportunities to enter. And it's very real. Ever notice when you just accumulate a lot of things, maybe in the closet, under the bed, you can feel that. It feels different. It feels heavy. I know when I have a lot of papers, because papers tend to be my thing, where I accumulate little scraps of paper. I just feel overloaded. But when I start going through it and start organizing it into the calendar, into a notepad, like a list, I feel things shift and things start to move. I also want to just give a caution before we move on to the channeled messages, that because there's a depth and intensity with this lunation, there could be an opportunity to escape or want to escape. And that's something I briefly touched on. And so think about ways that you can channel this into something you truly enjoy doing. Something that can help you sit with, connect with, and simply be with anything that comes up. It doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to solve it, especially with the Scorpionic feminine energy. Sometimes it's simply about allowing yourselves to feel what's coming up, whether it's to cry, to get angry, and that's it. You don't have to psychoanalyze anything. You don't have to journal, any of that. But it can help others to express that too in another form that is going to help you get this out. So for some, it could be music, putting on a playlist of music that goes with what you're feeling. For others, it could be moving the body or soaking in water, whatever it is. So just something to be aware of if you're feeling like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Those emotions don't leave the body. They're going to stay in there and then they will come back. So the best way, and again, always use your discernment and your intuition and know yourself and what you can handle, because the point of any of these energies, and whenever you're experiencing grief, trauma, wounding, or anything coming back up, is not to re-traumatize yourself. And I want to say that and be very clear about it. So consult any mental health professionals or anyone you feel can help guide you if it's too much. Okay, let's get into the channel messages. I got one. It's stop being nice and pretending. And I kept hearing that song by the Lovin' Spoonful, You Didn't Have to Be So Nice, from 1966. It's an oldies. I'll link it down below. I don't get any monetary compensation. I'm simply linking it for your reference. But I kept hearing this over and over. And I feel like this lunation is really going to help people just say, I am so, put in a big swear word, done. And to rip off the mask and to stop living in a facade, or to stop pretending to be a certain way or to be something for someone that you're not. This is also too about looking at yourself and asking, what parts of myself do I need to open the box to, the light? In other words, maybe I need to take a look at certain things that I've been ignoring, or I need to destroy aspects of myself or alchemize them in different ways and express them in different ways. So anytime you have felt where you're sharing something that you want to go forward in, what you want to do, and you feel like you're not getting that support that you want, pay attention to what people are saying. Not so much to internalize that and to say they're right, but to simply say, what are these people or these situations or environments telling me? And be an observer in that state, because you'll notice where you are changing yourself for others, or where you are pretending or simply existing or holding on to something that no longer exists or that is no longer viable. And there's a lot to parse through in what I'm saying, because with healing, with grief, with wounds, and with the spiritual journey in general, there's a lot beyond what I've just said, and it entails a lot of multi-layered unpacking. So this is a point, I feel, especially with Pluto and Aquarius, of saying, which direction are we going to go in? Are we going to continue still acting or being or existing in a certain way due to fears, due to traumas, due to wounds, due to stories that are on repeat, or because of other people telling us this is how it should be? Or are we going to start carving our own path and doing things a different way, which may be actually fearful in itself and bring up more fear and anxiety because it's unknown? And that's the Pluto and Aquarius energy that's forming a T-square with the moon and the sun, because I feel like I kept getting like blinkers, directional signals, where we're being asked to pivot in a new direction, but there are no steps there. And Scorpio energy generally appreciates having security and having some type of perhaps foresight or knowledge about that, but there isn't, which is interesting because the process of the Scorpionic energy in itself, of destruction, of darkness, unraveling, and feeling into things that may be quite big and insurmountable at that moment, it's natural for folks that maybe have a lot of this energy, and it could be new for folks that are navigating this path of how do I change my life? How do I change certain areas? How do I change these belief systems or these dynamics? So don't cover up what you feel is going to protect you by maintaining a facade of self, identity, persona, or trying to project a certain way. And I've noticed this with people in general in my interactions as of late. And I just realized for me, my, what is it, bullshit-ometer? I hope I said that right, bullshit meter. I think I missed a word. It's on alert, and I'm just like, okay, I sniffed this, I'm done, I'm out. And it's not because I'm trying to be mean, because I don't think I'm mean. I don't say anything to people like that. I just don't engage anymore. And that's the key point. When you feel like other people are responding or reacting to you in ways that are not supportive or that don't support where it is you want to go, this is the point to feel it. This point of reckoning and saying, oh my gosh, I thought this person was my friend. I thought they supported me or they had their best interest. And I feel like this lunation is going to unveil a lot of truths, things that you may not have wanted to see or know about others, about yourself, and about where you want to go in life around general situations. And I kept seeing too an egg cracking. And to me, this is about revealing your true self. And I feel like this also goes with asking ourselves, what is really important to me? Because what's really important to you may not be important to the next person or to your family or your friends or whatever. But this lunation is around getting rid of the flotsam and jetsam, the shit, the crap, the garbage, anything that you may have said yes to that has come within your energetic sphere, physically, emotionally. It's like, no, getting rid of all that doesn't belong to me. I also feel like there's a reacquaintance. I think that's the right word. There's also a reacquainting, getting to know in a different way what fear means to you and being seen in your power. And this is something I mentioned earlier about not dimming your light and stepping into your light and not being afraid of success, of being seen, of saying your truth, of speaking or expressing yourself in different ways. There's different insertions that you can add there. And so when you hold your power and your light, it doesn't mean you bend over backwards for people. It doesn't mean you dim it. And I've heard some people say that. People that usually have a problem with you are generally things that they need to deal with within themselves. And people have, especially now that I'm seeing this, when you don't know how to manage your own triggers, you will project it onto others. So that's something to be careful of. When you are experiencing something and you're feeling triggered, it's something to look at within yourself. That's not to say if there's asshole people around you, well, don't tolerate that behavior, because if something is always speaking to us about that. Okie dokes, you guys, let's get into the all signs. Aries. Okay, this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 8th house. So immediately what comes up is grief, anxiety, anything from those doors I mentioned. So it's about opening those dark doors, or if you're contending or dealing with that right now, I feel like there's going to be a major release coming for you, a major point of healing around yourself, how you've held yourself back, the way other people have treated you, perhaps around themes around betrayal, around wounding of many sorts, and how that has shifted or impacted your identity and who you are and how you have wanted to navigate in this life. I feel like, especially with the moon here, it's asking you to really get real with what's coming up and to not hide that anymore, to not run away from that. There's a point of feeling this, to heal this, and to release this, because I feel like this is going to help you propel forward with the nodes in your first house. You guys are undergoing major transformation at this time of, I keep hearing capitulating, but I feel like this has to do with forming or solidifying who you are, because sometimes you don't know yet as you're in the transition process who you're becoming, and that's changing. And I feel like that also means releasing things that used to be part of who you identified as or with, or what you considered your norm. And I see a lot of shifting happen. Pluto is squaring your 8th house and your 1st house as well. We have Aquarius here. So there's changes in the types of people, of networks, and your hopes and dreams. All of this is changing big time. And so you could be really thinking deep with this full moon in Scorpio. What don't I want anymore? What does not make sense to me? Because Pluto brings truth. And the scorpionic energy as well is about seeing truth. So some of you may be coming to a big truth in your life about what you truly desire, about fears that have held you back, especially from stepping into your power with Aries being in your 1st house and really allowing yourself to shine and to do what it is you want in life. I also feel like many of you have shifted your relationships as a result. You may be starting to connect with people that are more aligned to your values of this version that you're stepping into and what it is you're releasing. And you're going to see that foment and shift throughout Pluto's journey over the next 20 years. What else? I also feel like for any of you, because everyone is going to have different personal planets, right, and aspects that are different from this collective message, many of you are changing the way you're showing up to others in terms of your visibility. I keep getting something about the way that you talk. I mean, we have Mercury right now, transit Mercury in your 1st house. But I feel like even though the 1st house is an aversion to the 8th, I feel like any fears you're releasing right now, anything you're working through, trauma, wounding, particularly if you've been working with a therapist, a healer, and or you may be prompted to return back, especially with this lunation, to dig deeper and to say, okay, I want to clean this out. I feel like it's going to impact the way that you relate to people in terms of your communication. It's almost like a weight, a rock being lifted up, and you may feel this ease, this lightness, where you're finally able to speak your truth and to show up in the way that you've always wanted to. I get just an overall major letting go here of an old version of who you were. A lot of transformation happening right now with my Aries risings around self. I hope this helped. Thank you so much. Let's go into Taurus. Okay, Tauruses. I feel like everything is going slow. I have to click to get to your rising. Okay, Tauruses. This full moon in Scorpio is happening in my apologies. This full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 7th house of relationships, contracts, could be spouses, partnerships, other clients too, and visible enemies here. So I feel like there has been a major change in how you are showing up, which has definitely shifted your relationships. And some things that may be popping off with this lunation may be at a, what is it called? A cross point. You know, when something has repeated or has been going on for a while and it keeps popping up, I feel like this is a final ding where you're going to either resolve something with someone and it's going to strengthen that bond, particularly with the scorpionic energy, or it's going to break it. It's almost like either or. Some of you may have been dealing with people that it's just causing more drama, more conflict in your life than necessary. Some of you may have felt drained as a result, especially with the sun opposing the moon. You may have just gotten tired of it because it may be affecting your own inner stability. And this could have to do with people at work because we have Pluto in Aquarius squaring both your 1st and your 7th houses. So this could deal with people at work where all of a sudden, I heard wackadoodle. I don't know if that's a word you use, where people are showing up or showing their true nature and you're like, what's going on? It could be people that you associate with on a larger scale. I would say generally friendships too, particularly since we have Venus and Mercury in your 1st house. But I feel like you are clearing the drama. You're clearing or getting, I don't want to say getting rid of, but releasing people that are not contributing towards growth, stability, and the security that you seek. So any people that you're finding out, perhaps their true nature, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't realize that this was the way they were. There's a change happening here where you are strengthening your resolve and who you are. I feel like you have up-leveled your own emotional capacity to handle bullshit and to not handle it. And so folks that don't bring the energy that is supportive of you, there's a letting go here. A lot of changes around that area of life. Tauruses, I hope this has helped. My Geminis, we are on to you. Okay, Geminis, this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 6th house of hard work, of service, servitude, labor. It's not the house, excuse me, it's not the house of health, like so many folks say, but it's a house of illness because it's a malefic house. So you may have been responding to different circumstances in terms of your energetic input or output, where you're realizing I'm getting stressed out, I'm dealing with mental health issues, I'm feeling just overall imbalanced and sick. As a result, that could mean taking a greater interest in your self-care, in your wellness, in your holistic routines as it pertains to that. I also feel like some of you may be contending with illnesses and finally finding resolution or alternatives with the scorpionic energy. Some of you may be seeking alternative holistic modalities to help yourself in many different ways, different healing modalities. I got something with sleep as well. This lunation, some of you may be having a lot of dreams and you may be able to find some type of healing or a mechanism, something that can help you in your living life. So pay attention to your dreams because you may be getting information and guidance about how to best nurture and support you. And with the moon here, again, this speaks to the body, to the self, to the physical self. Some of you may be strengthening and working on, or even asking yourself with this lunation, what contributes to my peace? What contributes to making me feel good and what doesn't? Because you may be or have been feeling overloaded for quite a long time and you're ready for a change because you have the sun in the 12th. So some of you, this is also speaking to me about energy management, energy integrity, and balance with the sun in the 12th and a lot of the transit energies right now, which is Taurus for you. Some of you are finding stability and safety by being alone, by pulling your energy back and saying, you know what, I need me time, I need to recoup. I need to continue working on my own healing, maybe spirituality and any themes related to that, and get rid of all the crap that doesn't belong there. There's, I would say, like a psychological evolution happening with the 12th house for you guys, especially with the nodes there, the North Node, I should say. And, excuse me, let me correct that. Aries is, the North Node is in Aries right now in your 11th house, not in your 12th. My mistake. And I feel like there's a gradual shift happening where you no longer want to feel the way you have. So some of you are putting in a lot of work towards optimizing your well-being as it relates to your energetic output. So if some of you have been feeling like you're working too hard, there may be shifts in that environment coming for you, especially around people and what you do. So you have both your 12th and your 6th house squaring the 9th house, where we have Pluto and Aquarius. So that could mean some of you could be going back to school, like higher learning, taking classes, traveling or taking a sabbatical or some type of spiritual retreat, because I feel like this pings with the 12th and 6th axis on your mental, emotional, psychological health, but also your body in terms of any illness or any type of work that you are investing in. It could be work, but it could be anything else too, that could be creating burnout. I also feel like some of you could be potentially changing careers or going back for something different to change this dynamic, especially in the 6th house. So there is a complete release here of, I don't want to feel overburdened this way anymore. I don't want to feel like I'm sacrificing myself, because 6th house is also the house of servitude, indentured servitude. So you may be feeling wherever you are spending this energy in, like you are stuck. My Geminis, I hope this has helped. My Cancers, let's get on to you and see what this full moon in Scorpio is bringing. Okay, Cancer risings. This full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 5th house of pleasures, of love, of sex, passion, romance, the beginnings of romances, and joy. This is a good luck, good fortune house here. And there is, I feel, major changes around what brings you joy and pleasure. And you may be revolving or going through that with this lunation, letting go of certain, it could be people if you've been dating them, or certain pleasures or activities or recreation or even sports that once brought you joy, but you're no longer finding that contentment. There's, again, an emotional connection here. Many of you may have been thinking about ways to cultivate greater meaning in your life, greater emotional connection, finding things that allow you, excuse me, to connect on a deeper level, so that it's not just you're not just doing something for the sake of it, but that you can grow with it, especially with the moon here. Because this is opposing your 11th house, some of you are also meeting and expanding your networks, your social groups, your communities, allies, benefactors, and also your hopes and dreams are changing as a result. Because Aries is in the 10th house, the North Node. So I could see many of you with this lunation, you're letting go of something that maybe identified or was part of an identity, a previous version, that it has shifted, and you are going towards something else that could potentially impact your career. That means that whatever it is that you may be interested in, or if you're dating something and it's developing into something, or you are romancing in a different way. In other words, you may be dating in a completely new way. And I could see here with Taurus opposing your 5th house, many of you could be looking for relationships that are more stable. They could also come from this network, because you do have a whole sign trine of your 11th house to your 7th. So if you have any planets or transits that are happening, that could also impact it. I feel like stability in your relationships is important here. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. Some of you may be meeting potential partners and also good friends through your 11th house activity, which has to do with the 5th house and how it is changing. We also have Pluto in the 8th house in Aquarius. So this is squaring your 11th house and your 5th house. So I feel like there's themes here where, again, there's a deeper need to dive below the surface in what you're doing. And this could impact too the way that you connect to vulnerability, to emotional intimacy. There's a theme of connection here. So if any of you are undertaking new romances, you're dating, you're starting out again, or exploring love and sex, sexuality, and also pleasures in general, what brings you joy, there's a shift happening here with opening yourself to something deeper that's going to bring more meaning for you. And I feel like that's going to have a big potential to grow in the future. Okay, Cancers, thank you so much. My Leos, we are on to you. Okie dokes, Leos. This full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 4th house of home, family, ancestry, roots. This is a subterranean sector of the natal chart. So this could also include anything having to do with divination. It could be astrology. It could be anything occult, secrets, mysteries as well. So Leo risings, this lunation could bring about any themes from the past, anything that's being revealed to you in terms of your lineage, from your family, things that you are contending with, maybe through work or healing that you've been doing, because I also feel like this moon is allowing you to heal any family wounds, any traumas growing up, anything that is coming back to be alchemized in a greater way for you. So you don't have to keep reliving this. This is opposing your 10th house of Taurus. And so that could also mean Some of you, oh, I want to say too, I just got this with the moon in the 4th. Some of you may be taking time off to take care of yourself and spending time at home, because the moon also can signify home, can signify your inner emotional world as well, your environment, your body. And some of you may be taking care of yourself and stepping away from visibility. In other words, the 10th house. This could also impact your work. And I can see we have Uranus, Jupiter, the sun in Taurus right now. So some of you may be going towards a different work opportunity or changing the way you work so that it helps support you, how you feel at home and where you feel at home. I feel many of you, if you're dealing with any health issues, I feel like you're reworking your whole work-life balance and scheme and values and what that means and how you're going to reconfigure that, or what you will do to reconfigure that is going to have an impact in your 4th house sector, particularly your health. We have Pluto. Both your 4th and your 10th house are squaring Pluto in the 7th in Aquarius. So again, I feel like this is bringing about a whole new host of characters for you, and it's changing the way that your relationships in general, how you're relating to people, because you're healing. And I feel like this is going to shift for some of you, the type of work you do and also where you live, the type of home. Some of you may be moving and changing. But I feel in general, there's a letting go of anything that has kept you stuck in wounds and grief and traumas. And there's a major healing happening around family and family themes that's going to allow you a freedom. Thank you, Leos. We're on to Virgos. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, Virgo risings, this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 3rd house. This is of your local neighborhood, your community, your neighbors, siblings, could be relatives like aunts, uncles, cousins, could be some educational opportunities like elementary and local educational opportunities. This also speaks to divination as well, astrology, esoteric themes, and occult. So Virgo risings, there could be a shift here in how you're relating to people that are local to you, and perhaps reformulating a way of connecting to your community in a different way. Particularly since we have the sun in the 9th house, and both the 3rd and the 9th house are squaring your 6th house of Aquarius, where Pluto is in at this time. Some of you may be going back to school to learn so that you could shift or get more knowledge in what it is that you want to do, whether it's for a career, for pleasure, or for something extra, like a side business. I feel like there's a lot of busyness that could potentially be happening in your 6th house. And it's bringing you into more of a local arena here with the 3rd house. So for those of you that may have focused more on engaging with others, perhaps from other countries, or even online from other cultures, or putting your energy in ways that were not allowing you to get to know where you lived, I feel like there's a greater focus of wanting to get to know, well, what's my environment about? How can it support me? Because with the 3rd and 6th house, it really speaks to the amount of work that you're putting in, how you're doing it, and with whom. Some of you too, the way that you present yourself, if any of you are on platforms, online platforms, talking, speaking, communication in general, the way you move about, I feel like that's changing with this full moon. And it's bringing up any fears around visibility of being seen. So if any of you do like YouTube, podcasting, or would like to do something like that, I feel like this lunation is going to allow you to finally contend and say, well, what am I scared of and what's stopping me? and to allow you to make progress in that way. There's a lot of, I feel, opportunities where some of you are going to be going back to school, any school. It could be higher education, or it could be like a course, a training that's going to be related to anything that you may want to teach, show, demonstrate, disseminate, or learn to others. Okay, my Virgos, we're on to Libras. Okie dokie. Libras, this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your second house of material possessions, resources, income, values, and what you do. I feel like for Libra risings, there is a shift in perhaps your finances, how you deal with finances, what it means for you, and your values in particular. I feel like your values have shifted around security, perhaps emotional security, and the entire process having to do with how you bring in income and also shared resources, since we have most of the current transits, I would say Sun, Jupiter, and also Uranus in the 8th house. So you guys have experienced a lot of changes here, unexpected, and new ways of leading into surprises or things that didn't go in the way that you imagine when it comes to your finances and resources in general. There's been a reevaluation of your values around this, because when things shift, and you may have seen almost like a roller coaster effect over the years, this lunation is asking you, what is most important to you, even if others don't agree with you, even if others don't support you, even if others don't see you? Because Pluto right now, your second and your 8th house are squaring Pluto in the 5th. And many of you can be changing what it is that interests you, what it is that you take pleasure in, even the types of love, romance, and your relationship to sex could be having an impact on your values and what it is, and they could be feeding one another too, what it is that you want to move forward to. And that could, for people that have known you, that could surprise them. People always have something to say, and they could be letting you know, and it may not resonate with you. So there's something that keeps coming up here with the second house energy about releasing anything that's not yours. Because I feel like many of you are going to shift the way that you may be bringing in income or wanting to make money, and it may not always be in a traditional way that other people are like, wow, that's great. People may be like, huh, or have something to say to you. And I feel like this lunation is giving you an empowerment to say, I don't give a shit. This is what I'm really feeling drawn towards. And with the 5th house in Aquarius, I can see many Libras exploring maybe alternative, holistic, it could be technological related careers or interests that lead to different careers, but that impact your money. So some of you, this may not be your career, but it's something you're making money from. And you're letting go of others' expectations that they may be putting on you. There's also a leveling up with finances. Again, because Uranus has been in your 8th house of Taurus for several years now, many of you have been dealing with changes to your financial sector. And so I feel like this lunation is allowing you to up-level that in a way that conforms to your values. Libras, I hope this has helped. Okay, Scorpios. So this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 1st house, Scorpios. So there's a lot of, I kept getting a lot of letting go of who you thought you were, or who you thought other people wanted you to be, or what you may have felt. And there's a release happening here. Some of you may be changing the way you look, maybe stepping into a new identity. There could be changes around what it is you want to do. You may be asking yourself, do I want to continue working in this way, or making money in this way, or being seen in this way? There's an identity shift here, and some of you are releasing major fears, especially since we have Pluto in the at 2 degrees in Aquarius in your 4th house. So some of you may be prompted at this time with this lunation to say, you know what, I want to take my healing journey up to the next level, or I want to start it, and I'm ready to dive deep into anything that's coming up for me, whether it's family trauma, wounds, ancestral lineage patterns, or even if it's just you holding yourself back in different ways. I feel like there's immense healing that's going to happen here, and even truths coming out about where you may have held yourself back. Because I feel like since this relates to you, this is about showing up in a different way. And this is opposing your 7th house of Taurus, where the sun is. We have Jupiter and Uranus. So you may have experienced a lot of fluctuations in this sector where you may want stability and strengthening and loyalty and growth, excuse me. And so I feel like as you continue to, it goes in tandem, as you continue to release anything that's holding you back, fears, insecurities, which more than likely you see them through others in your 7th house as mirrors, it's going to allow you to grow in a more enriched way, but that feels good to you, that feels like you're honoring yourself. And I feel like this lunation, it's about getting rid of anything other people have put on you or you have put on yourself. So these are constraints. You're breaking them, you're releasing them, and you're saying, I'm out. Thank you, Scorpios. Let's go on to Sagittarius. Okie dokes. Sag risings. This full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 12th house. So it's a focal point here on perhaps solitude, on being alone, but also taking care of any health challenges. It could be mental health, but also physical health, especially with the moon here. Also, you may be retreating or feel the need to retreat and take care of your own inner world, stay at home, and perhaps clean up. There's an energy here of releasing anything that you've hung on or kept for too long. So there's, again, like a therapeutic cleansing happening. Some of you are working through some types of traumas in relation to things from the past. It could be past life as well. And I also feel like some of you with this lunation are strengthening your own beliefs around spirituality, around the unknown and what it feels like to be with yourself. Because when you're with yourself more, in other words, when you retreat from the general, I was going to say populace, but from populations, from the environment, you learn about yourself in a whole new way, and you get to see things that you didn't see before when you were in the company of others. And I see that happening here, where you may be thinking about, what is it that truly matters to me? What is it that I'm ready to let go of? And where is it that I want to expand to? Because you have Pluto and Aquarius in your 3rd house, and both the 12th and the 6th are squaring this. So the way that you could be working with your local environment, your community, your neighbors, and communicating, teaching, learning, and connecting to others, even topics around astrology, divination, the occult, they're shifting big time, because I feel like you may be working on solidifying or even saying, well, what are my own spiritual beliefs? What matters to me? And strengthening your own internal intuitive and psychic connection. A lot of emotions coming out here. So for those of you that may identify as empaths, or simply you feel like you're overloaded in terms of your energy, I feel like this is a time where you may figure out what isn't helping you and what is, and how important it is, I should say, for you to take time alone regularly and cleanse your energy. Some of you may feel like you've had to retreat from people, or like you've just wanted people to go away from you because you felt their energy, you were impacted by them and what they were going through, and you felt it even if they didn't say anything. So it's just an extra caution to take care of that at this time. Capricorns, you're next. We have the full moon in Scorpio happening in your 11th house. So I can see changes here, because in your 5th house, we have the sun, Uranus, and Jupiter in your 5th house. And many of you have perhaps been going through changes in what brings you joy, pleasure in your romantic life too, when it comes to dating or in the early processes of love and partnership. Same thing with kids. Something I forgot to mention with the others. There may have been a lot of changes with children if you have them, and also too with sex and dating as that goes along with it. But in general, the way that you seek joy, creativity, and pleasure has been shifting for quite a while. And that has impacted the way that you connect with your larger network, with your community, with people that support you, especially your dreams, your hopes, and your desires. Oh, excuse me. The plug is right here and I keep knocking it over. And I feel like this full moon, you're letting go of networks of people that may have fit old versions of you, may have supported things that you previously enjoyed, but no longer connect to. And I feel like it's going to bring in new people that are supporting where you are heading towards, because we have Pluto and Aquarius in the second house, scoring both the 11th and the 5th. And that means that some of you may be changing your work or career or the way you bring in income. And that's going to happen as a result of new people coming in. So if you felt in the recent weeks, days, weeks, maybe months that folks have been leaving and you're like, where's my network? Like my communities have changed. The people that have supported me, like allies, benefactors, your uplifters, they're like, where'd they go? They're shifting big time because you've been changing as well. So naturally, this lunation, I feel, is going to bring about folks that connect with you on a deeper, more authentic level, but that also support what it is that you want to do. Some of you may need to first clarify where it is you want to go, and then I feel like people are going to follow. I don't know why I just said that. The Capricorns, I hope this helped. Aquariuses, you're next. Okie dokes. Aquarius, or my Aquarians, this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 10th house of career, visibility, reputation, and how it is that you are using your energy in public. This also includes legacy. There could be changes here with showing up in a certain way in your work, in your life, in your general profile to the world. And I feel like some of you are pushing past any types of limitations or fears you've had, particularly when it comes to being seen maybe as a leader, seen a certain way in this space, and also showing up differently than what others have tried to label you as. I feel like this also connects to any form of family wounds, family traumas, or healing that may be coming up at this time, or reorganization in the family sector, which is impacting your 10th house. Because I feel like you're letting go of trying to fit in to something others want you to see just because it fits a certain ideal or it fits a certain stereotype. And you're simply showing up as you. I just get a freedom, like, okay, I'm done showing up in a certain way or feeling constrained. I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the scorpionic energy, if some of you leave your jobs or decide, I don't want to do this anymore, or whatever you're doing, whether it's volunteer, taking care of someone, or the role that you're currently playing, student, worker, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if you decide to leave and change and pivot towards something that's a lot more meaningful to you, perhaps something solo like entrepreneurship or going out and taking a risk. Some of you also may be changing location because of your home, and the moon is in the 10th. So naturally, some could be moving because of that as well. If you have felt like where you're at right now is no longer supporting who you are, or who you are becoming, I can see that some of you will be changing jobs, like moving for them or moving homes, and as a result, getting a different job or getting or exerting your energy in a different way in this space. We have Pluto in your first house right now, squaring both the 10th and the 4th. So there could be tension coming up right now from family, from home, from your roots, and with your career, but also having to do with you because you are starting to undergo a transformation with Pluto here, which is huge. So the way you have been changing and the way you will continue to evolve is going to impact the way you show up. And what I get right away is going to be, I don't care if people support me or not, I have to show up in the way that I am, that feels true to me, and where I'm making a contribution. Okay, my Aquarians, I hope this helped. My Pisces, we are on to you. Okie dokes. So this full moon in Scorpio is happening in your 9th house of higher education, of learning, of spirituality. This is also the house of religion, of potential spiritual mentors, guides, travel, long distance travel in particular, foreign travel, foreign cultures, and also of dreams, like when you fall asleep and you have a dream, divination and such. So Pisces, some of you are finally going after what it is you want, and I feel like this lunation is going to help bring up any fears around that and help you contend with anything that has been blocking you before from pursuing what it is that you want to go towards. This could be an initiation of learning something new or going deeper, especially with the scorpionic energy of continuing that path of study. It could be travel, pilgrimage, retreat, but there's a general form of your beliefs, philosophies and higher learnings changing in general. Your worldview is changing. And this is opposing your 3rd house, where your sun, Uranus, and Jupiter are currently at, or transit, I should say. So there have been a lot of changes here in perhaps how you show up in your local community, how you connect. There may have been a lot of moves in the past years, especially with Uranus there, but I feel like with the sun and with Jupiter here, some of you are feeling or seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, where you feel like you're going down the right hallway, going down the right path. And I feel like this lunation is going to give you validation and confirmation of that. There's also, I just feel like fears, anything that's holding you back from continuing to allow yourself to receive and to expand in this area is going to occur. So both the 3rd and the 9th are squaring your 12th house, where Pluto is currently starting its transit at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So this could mean also working or continuing to work on any traumas, psychological, emotional, mental healing. You also may be feeling more of a capacity, especially as we go on with the Pluto transit. So this is just starting, but you may be feeling more drawn to spend time alone in a concerted way that allows you to learn how to balance and use your energy. Because the 12th house is on the 12th 6th house axis, and some of you may still be learning how to maintain and balance your energy and strengthen that within yourself, and changing the way that you relate to the past, to again any traumas, anything that's held you back, and any challenges and hardships. I feel like, you know, when you've experienced something difficult in life, sometimes when something happens, it doesn't have to be the same, but it could be just another hardship. It's like, oh shit, now what? And you may tend to experience that in the same way. With Pluto and Aquarius here squaring your 3rd and your 9th, I feel like any challenges that come up in this area, you're going to navigate them in a different way. Perhaps with the Aquarian energy ruled by Saturn. Take a look at where Saturn is in your chart. There's going to be a level of growth, responsibility, determination, where you're going to be able to navigate that process in a different way, but in a way that's going to strengthen you. I feel like there's just a continuity here that's happening in this full moon. It's going to allow you to pave the way to further consolidate this. Before we leave, I wanted to offer a final oracle message for everyone. And I am taking timestamps right now because I do not have time to watch this and edit it. I just want to get it out because it's late. I'm using the Seasons of the Witch Mabon Oracle. I felt very, very drawn to use this because there's a lot of releasing happening. We have 2 cards. We have the coven, number 9. I am you and you are me. When we come together, we are all we seek. I feel like this brings up elements around what you see in others, you may see in yourself, and what you see in yourself, you may see in others. And there's those arrows going back and forth that may be pinging a lot right now, but it's also extremely, how am I saying this? It's an opportunity for learning, for deeper learning about oneself in these energies and with this full moon, especially areas that we don't want to look within ourselves, and the areas that we may deem good, bad, negative. These could be darker shadow aspects of ourselves. But I also feel like this is opening up and paving the way for deeper intimacy, deeper vulnerability, emotional strengthening with others. Because when we get to that point in this energy of finally saying, you know what, it's okay to feel these emotions, whether they're strong or whether we deem them bad or whatever it is, it's okay to feel this level of intensity because it means I care. It means something matters to me. It means that I want to continue protecting, safeguarding this person, this situation, my beliefs, my dreams. And we have the moon here with these crows and mushrooms. I just feel like this lunation, with the Scorpio energy, I feel like when we let go of anything that is expired, even though we may still love what's in that expiration box. So it could be people, jobs, situations, events, pastimes. Think of anything you know that you're ready to move on from. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but I feel like there's this quiet knowing as Mars rules Scorpio, where you just know and you have to grieve it sometimes before it even happens, as a way to prepare yourself, as a way to say, I can do this. I feel sometimes with the water energies, especially Scorpio, you know beforehand whether something's going to work before you physically make that decision of letting go, of releasing, of walking away. And I think that's the hard part, because you sit with it for a long time and you try to make it work, and you may try to ignore what you're feeling and what's coming up. And I feel like sometimes this means leaving people, places, things, and old ways of being to bring something deeper back into your life. Your final card here for all of us. We got 22, haunted house. The things that haunt you are the things you have yet to let go of. This sums up the moon. A lot of perhaps hauntings, fears, doubts, things that we may try to repress or bury, like keep it down or ignore. This lunation is going to unleash that. And we're going to feel that in the emotional realm, because that's going to let us know first that something is off or something needs attention. And it's precisely, you see the light, when we reacquaint ourselves with the past, with anything that has hurt us, with grief, and we say, I see you, I hear you, but you're done. I don't need to keep taking this with me. We can take our little candle and continue through that darkness. And that's when we start transcending from that. Because if you think about Scorpio in terms of its season, we enter darkness after the fall equinox. It starts to become dark. And that's how we find our own light. It's within ourselves. It's all very energetic and metaphorical here. A lot of letting go with partners, with other people, with expectations, because you're growing. And this is the hardest part of the spiritual journey, is knowing that you can't save anyone, you can't fix anyone, you can't make anyone go to where you're at, because everyone is at different levels of growth. And the best way to explain this, because sometimes people think that means you're better than others, and it doesn't. It's when you play Nintendo or video games, sometimes you're playing with others and you're in different levels or worlds. It doesn't make you any better than anyone, because that person is going to get there eventually, but it may not happen at the same time. So you guys, take it easy with this lunation. I expect there to be a lot of water, outpouring grief. Allow yourself to cry. Maybe taking a bath. Some practical steps or tips that can help is working with the water energy. So allow yourself to cry. Something that helps, and I've said this before, is if I'm feeling like I have to cry and I can't, I go on YouTube or Google and I start looking for the saddest songs. Look, comment down below what helps you during Scorpio full moon or any water full moons. What helps you release? What helps you contend with all the emotions and grief? Things unspoken or not spoken, things unsaid. How do you contend with all of that? Because this lunation is the perfect way to let go, particularly with all of the big changes and energies we've experienced in the preceding weeks and months. This is a way to make peace with things that we have been carrying along in our life suitcase, with things we've been dragging, importantly, with things we energetically have simply adopted and have taken. So be kind to yourself more than anything and just allow. Guys, I hope this has helped. I have other lunation videos if you want to get more perspective, because this is simply all a cycle. It just continues. And next year we will be back with another full moon in Scorpio. So I'm wishing you a beautiful and cathartic release with this lunation. I'll see you soon. Take care.